Welcome to the deep dive. It's really amazing how the human body works, isn't it? Sometimes you have these things that seem totally separate, but they're actually woven together in ways we're, well, maybe only just starting to fully get. And let's face it, in this world just swimming in information, trying to find clear, reliable insights, it can feel like tuning an old radio, just static everywhere. Well, today we're going to try and cut through some of that noise. We're doing a deep dive into a connection that's powerful, maybe often underestimated. The link between obesity and infertility. And this isn't just, one or two things. It's a really comprehensive look, pulling from recent research. It affects both men and women quite significantly. Our goal really is to unpack how excess body weight can disrupt that delicate hormonal balance, the physiological processes that are just absolutely essential for reproduction, how it makes conception tougher. We want to bring some clarity here, some understanding to what is admittedly a pretty complex subject.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is just how deeply connected metabolic health is with reproductive function. It goes, honestly, way beyond what most people probably think at first. It really shows you how systemic everything is in the body.
Systemic, that's the perfect word. Because when we talk about this link, it's not just a small nudge off course. These are like fundamental biological shifts happening. Maybe let's start with the female experience, because this is where it gets particularly intricate. Obesity can really interfere with a woman's fertility in, well, a whole lot of ways, mostly by messing with that incredibly complex hormonal symphony that, runs the whole show, menstrual cycle, ovulation.
Precisely. We sometimes call it hormonal havoc, which sounds dramatic, but it kind of fits. And it really starts with understanding that fat tissue, adipose tissue, it isn't just like passive storage. Not at all. It's actually a really active endocrine organ. That means it's busy producing its own hormones and, importantly, inflammatory substances that travel throughout the body. So for women carrying excess weight, this extra fatty tissue causes a few key problems. First off, you've got elevated estrogen levels. Fat cells have this enzyme, aromatase, and its job is to convert androgens, those male hormones women have small amounts of, into estrogen. So more fat means more conversion, more estrogen. This extra estrogen then basically floods the system and it disrupts the normal feedback loops of what we call the HPO axis. Hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. That's the brain-ovary communication line, the central command for reproduction. When it gets confused by all that extra estrogen, the result is often irregular ovulation or sometimes no ovulation at all. That's an ovulation.
Wow, okay. So the fat tissue itself is essentially sending out these interfering signals, hormonally speaking. It's like jamming the frequency for the body's reproductive control center. A miscommunication, basically, at a really fundamental level, stopping ovulation.
Exactly right. And there's another huge piece tied into this, insulin resistance. Obesity is a major, major risk factor for insulin resistance. That's where your body's cells don't respond properly to insulin. So the pancreas, trying to compensate, just pumps out more and more insulin. Now, these really high insulin levels, they have a knock-on effect. They can actually stimulate the ovaries to produce too many androgens, which, again, disrupts ovulation. This whole chain reaction is a big contributor to polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, which I'm sure you know is a leading cause of infertility.
Right. So it's like the cells aren't listening to the insulin signal, so the pancreas shouts louder, and that shouting messes things up down the line with the ovaries.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And then there's leptin as well, another hormone involved. Leptin's made by fat cells too, helps regulate appetite, energy balance. In obesity, leptin levels are usually very high. But the body can become resistant to leptin signals, just like with insulin. And this leptin resistance, it can also interfere with that HPO axis, impairing fertility. It just adds another layer of complexity, another crossed wire.
And these hormonal issues, they're not just abstract concepts. They have real practical consequences that directly prevent conception or make pregnancy difficult. We've talked about ovulation problems being key, but what about the egg itself? Does obesity affect egg quality?
Oh, absolutely. That's a critical point. The sort of low-grade inflammatory environment that often comes with obesity, plus the metabolic abnormalities, all of that can really negatively impact the quality of a woman's eggs, her oocytes. It makes them less likely to fertilize properly, less likely to develop into a healthy embryo. And even if fertilization happens, the lining of the uterus, the endometrium, it might be less receptive. The environment inside the uterus might just not be optimal for an embryo to implant successfully in women with obesity.
So even if someone isn't sure why they're struggling to conceive, these underlying hormonal issues, these cellular problems, they could be the unseen barrier, affecting everything from the egg itself to where it needs to implant. And this must have implications for fertility treatments too, right? Like IVF.
Definitely. For people using assisted reproductive technologies, RT, like IVF, the studies are pretty clear. Women with obesity tend to have lower success rates, and it comes back to those same reasons: poor egg quality, lower rates of implantation, and also, unfortunately, a higher risk of miscarriage even after successful implantation. It really presents challenges at multiple stages.
Which leads to that other really tough consequence, miscarriage risk. Even if conception happens, the pregnancy itself is at higher risk. So it's not just about getting pregnant, it's about staying pregnant too. Gosh, when you lay out how these specific hormonal and cellular disruptions work together, it really drives home the biological reasons why fertility gets compromised.
It really does. It shows you the biology behind it, why things that seem related to metabolism are actually so central to reproduction.
And crucially, this isn't just a female issue. We've gone deep into the female side, but it's so important to stress the impact isn't limited to women at all. These same kinds of metabolic challenges have, well, just as significant an impact on male fertility, sometimes in ways people don't expect. So let's pivot now. How does obesity affect male fertility?
Well, for men, hormonal imbalance is also a really key part of the story connecting obesity and infertility. We know obesity is strongly linked to lower levels of testosterone. That's the main male sex hormone, absolutely vital for sperm production. And here's why, largely. Remember that enzyme aromatase we talked about in women? It's also abundant in male fat tissue, and it does the same job. It converts testosterone into estrogen. So the more excess fat a man carries, the more of his testosterone gets turned into estrogen. The result: lower circulating testosterone levels, sometimes significantly lower.
Okay, so it's a similar mechanism with that enzyme. But instead of creating excess female hormone disrupting female cycles, it's actively reducing the key male hormone. What does that hormonal shift do specifically to male fertility?
Exactly. And then that increased estrogen, along with the lower testosterone, messes with the signals coming from the pituitary gland in the brain. Those signals are crucial for telling the testes to make sperm. So you get this kind of double hit, less testosterone available, and the production signals are disrupted. What's really striking is how excess fat can degrade the sort of fundamental quality of male reproduction. It's not just sperm count, but the sperm's health, its genetic integrity. It's a real shift.
And the results of these hormonal changes, plus other factors tied to obesity, they really add up for male fertility, don't they? We see things like reduced sperm count. That's oligospermia, right? Fewer sperm.
That's right, lower concentration. But it's not just the count. We also frequently see poor sperm motility. That's astenosospermia. Basically, the sperm don't swim as well as they should. Their ability to move effectively towards the egg is impaired. And beyond count and movement, there's morphology, the shape of the sperm. Teratozospermia. Men with obesity often have a higher percentage of abnormally shaped sperm.
And maybe even more worrying is the DNA issue, sperm DNA fragmentation.
Yes, that's a major concern. The genetic material inside the sperm can actually be damaged more often in men with obesity. And that damaged DNA can lead to failure of fertilization or poor embryo development if fertilization occurs, and just like we discussed in women, it increases the risk of miscarriage. It compromises the very genetic blueprint.
That's profound. And there are other factors too.
Yes, a couple more worth mentioning. Obesity is a known risk factor for erectile dysfunction, which obviously impacts the ability to conceive naturally through intercourse. And something that maybe gets overlooked is scrotal temperature. Excess fat, particularly around the abdomen and genital area, can actually raise the temperature in the scrotum. And the testes, they need to be slightly cooler than the core body temperature to produce sperm optimally. Even a small increase in temperature can be detrimental to both sperm production and quality. It's a very temperature-sensitive process.
Wow. So putting it all together, it really hammers home that fertility is a team effort, isn't it? Health factors in one partner can absolutely influence the couple's chances together.
Yeah.
It's not just his problem or her problem. It's a shared biological journey. But, and this is a big but, this deep dive isn't meant to just be doom and gloom. There's actually some really good news here.
Oh, absolutely not. And this is the crucial part, the empowering part, really. For both men and women who might be facing infertility linked to obesity, there is a clear and often very effective intervention. weight loss. It's really considered a primary strategy, and it can make a huge difference.
A huge difference. How much are we talking? Do you need drastic changes?
Actually, no. And that's what's so encouraging. Even a modest amount of weight loss,
But-
we're talking just 5% to 10% of total body weight, can significantly improve outcomes. That level of reduction can really help rebalance hormones. It can help restore ovulation in women, and it demonstrably improves sperm quality parameters in men. The direct result is an increased chance of conceiving naturally and also of having a healthier pregnancy.
Just 5–10%. That feels achievable for many people. It really speaks to the body's ability to bounce back, doesn't it? So how do people achieve that? What are the main approaches?
Well, the cornerstones are really lifestyle changes. A balanced, healthy diet focusing on nutrient-dense foods combined with regular physical activity. Those are fundamental. Now, for some individuals facing bigger challenges with weight, medical or even surgical weight loss interventions might be discussed with their doctor as appropriate options. But the underlying message is that positive change is possible, and it can have a real impact on fertility.
So what's the takeaway for you listening right now? It means that if weight is a factor in fertility struggles, there's a concrete, actionable path forward. It really highlights how resilient our bodies can be, how they can respond to positive changes and, work towards optimizing function when we give them the right support.
Exactly. It's not just about identifying a problem. It's about understanding the mechanism, which then points directly to effective solutions. It's hopeful, and it's based on solid biology.
This whole deep dive, it's really shown us just how intimately our metabolic health, our weight, is tied to our reproductive future. These complex mechanisms, they are understandable. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other parts of our health, things that may be seen unrelated on the surface, are quietly influencing each other in ways we're maybe just starting to figure out.
It's a great question to ponder. We hope you'll reflect on these connections. Maybe think about areas in your own health journey where understanding these kinds of links could be really beneficial.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.